Welcome in to the Bro Force Squad podcast. We are just a bunch of bros drinking beer and in this case watching television. I am your host, Jeff Hornacek. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. This is our review of Season 5 of Black Mirror, which just debuted on Netflix a couple of days ago. And I have to be joined, since this is, I guess, not maybe a horror, but like a dark sci-fi show, by our legal counsel, Ronnie Cycli. And Ronnie, before we dive in, what did you see when you looked into the ominous Black Mirror?
Yeah, so every time I look into a Black Mirror, I just see my grotesque reflection. So that's one of the reasons I always have my TV on or my cell phone on, because if I accidentally turn it off, it's just a horrible figure looking right back at me.
Yeah, if they really want to scare the shit out of me, then they should just have an episode where like your TV goes black and I have to look at myself.
We actually have to have a conversation with other humans. What the fuck?
Ew! Like in person? That's fucking gross. All right, normally we do our television reviews on our 4 TV criteria, which is the acting, the story, our favorite scene, and any theories going forward. But because Black Mirror is an anthology series, and because this season especially was maybe the shortest season in terms of episodes with only 3, we're just going to do a mini review on each of the 3 episodes and scrap the 4 criteria. We'll just go with our thoughts on the story and then anything else we want to talk about. So spoilers again for Season 5 of Black Mirror. Cycli and I have both seen all 3 episodes, so we're going to go through each of them, spend a few minutes on each. So if you haven't seen any of them, we're going to start with Episode 1, Striking Vipers, and then, I mean, if you're listening to this, you've probably seen them all. But just to be warned, there are spoilers. All right, so our first, and kind of the theme, or I guess the motif of this, is this has a little bit of a more American feel to it in terms of the cast in it, which may be better or worse, but they tried to make it appeal to an American audience more. And our first episode is called Striking Vipers, and the plot synopsis for this is 2 estranged college friends reunite later in life, triggering a series of events that could alter their lives forever. This episode starred Anthony Mackie as Danny, who of course is Falcon in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Yahya Abdul-Mateen as Carl, who is Black Manta in Aquaman. That was kind of cool. Nicole Bahari as Theo, and then Palm Clementieff, who's Mantis actually in the Marvel Universe, as Roxette, and Ludi Lin as Lance. So, Cycli, I'll just toss it to you first. Striking Vipers was the first episode in Season 5. What was your initial thoughts of it?
Well, my initial thoughts, I was really, it was interesting to me that you reached out immediately and asked me to play some video games online. And I was like, whoa,
yeah.
You haven't asked me to do that in a really long time. What struck that up? And you're like, man, I just watched Striking Vipers, and it just got me in the mood.
And I picked a female character right off the bat, which...
yeah, we'll get into that, because the least... we're jumping ahead, because I was going to say the least likely scenario is that he never tried being the woman in this. First thoughts was, for a Black Mirror episode, I have a really, really high bar for Black Mirror. I personally love the concept of what the show is. So I do have high expectations. This episode was entertaining throughout. I was kept in. The concept really lured me the entire time. Definitely got a little interesting there for a while on what the concept was pursuing. But, it is a scenario that I can envision happening as technology develops, especially in the gaming community. At the end, I was definitely, it didn't have that Black Mirror end, right? Like, it didn't have that dark twist that you maybe are anticipating sometimes.
Where you feel like shit, but in a good way,
Yeah, like your heart starts racing. Like, what have I missed? Sometimes in Black Mirror, you're like trying to put puzzle pieces together. At the end of it, I thought the acting was really well done by 2 college friends, 2 old friends who really didn't know what their feelings meant for each other. I thought the wife, Nicole, what was her name in the episode?
Nicole Bahari. Yeah, she was actually. Yeah, she was actually. She played Jackie Robinson's wife in 42.
Yeah. I sold her as the struggling, insecure wife. Upper 30s, had children, having another child. She was great. So I really appreciate the dynamic of the 2 friends and the wife, and the episode or the scene when they're having the dinner together, and she is literally the only one talking. So yeah. I really enjoyed the episode overall. The ending left me wanting just a little more. Overall, probably like a 6 or 7 out of 10 for me. In middle of the pack, slightly under 50% in terms of my overall Black Mirror rankings. What about you?
Yeah, so this one, maybe you'll disagree, but I feel like this season was really light on the infusion of technology, at least for Black Mirror standards. And this one was the one that I felt like utilized it the most in the show, which is always kind of the interesting thing, like how what dark or introverted way will we look at how we use technology? And this one had it as the biggest part of the plot, which I thought was cool. This is technology that like VR stuff is like on the precipice or here. Obviously, like the technology in this episode is not something we have yet, but it's relatable and scary. Not scary, but it's relatable in the sense where you're like, wow, this could actually be something that like is happening now or is close. And it didn't feel so utopian like some episodes do, or like technology wasn't even really a part of it like some of the other two episodes. I think this one tackled things that Black Mirror's kind of avoided for the most part, which is maybe not by choice because they've had so many genius ideas, but this was a lot about like gender identity and like sexual discovery and stuff like that and like identity crisis. And in that case, you really feel for Nicole Bahari's character because at the end of the episode, she's like, "Is there something?" When they're at dinner, that was like a
Yeah.
powerful scene. She's like, "Is there something fucking wrong with me?" Because you're not even eating the chocolate lava cake that we got. Like that's how I know something's
I always
up.
love the waiters in these awkward fight situations at restaurants. Like they don't like, hello, here's your cake. This is awkward.
Yeah, he's like, I need to get you guys to tab out, but also it looks like you're about to get a divorce. So I don't want to like overstep, but also, what's up? Am I getting my tip? Um, and this one, I don't know, man. This we'll rank the episodes for this season at the very end of the review, but with this episode, I think this one has grown on me the most since I watched it for whatever reason. I don't know. I just think it's resonated more with me. Like I felt like it had a very concise message, but it told it in a really abstract kind of way, which I really liked. I don't really know how to elaborate on it more than that. I
Yeah.
think I still need to process this one.
Yeah, for me, that's what I think. That's almost my issue with it. Is it is a little on the surface, right? Kind of all three episodes. I thought, we'll talk about that more in depth here. But I think what my head was going while I was watching it was, I do appreciate the story of that's going to be a thing. If you are able to have these like sexual experiences in VR, that's going to be explored. There's going to be so much money in that.
Oh yeah.
Even couples are going to explore it.
Well, even Carl says he's like, dude, I've tried 3 ways, 9 ways. I was the dude.
Polar bear. That was my.
Oh yeah.
And I could, you can see couples getting into that. I was surprised though they didn't. Here's what I thought was going to happen the whole time. I thought they were going to become so obsessed with that VR world that they would literally never leave it. Like
that's what I thought. Because the beginning they kind of allude to that where they stay up like all night playing the game.
Like,
and
what if you got so obsessed with like I'm just picturing people who are unhappy with their bodies, they have insecurities, are unhappy with their love relationships. This could be an issue that I thought they were going to explore of saying, what if people would rather be that VR character?
Well, it's almost like the USS Callister episode from last season where it's just like an escape from reality. Like, well, this is better than the world that I actually live in, so I'll just stay here.
Like, dude, if I get to be Yoshi, I would fucking stay as Yoshi. I mean, that's not even the bait.
There was a whole week where you just talked like him, making we lost a lot of friends that week. Last thing I want to ask before we move on to the second episode, your thoughts on and I think we'll just ask this for all the episodes because this is kind of the point of every Black Mirror anthology episode, but the ending. What were your thoughts on the way it ended with his wife, Theo, and him basically coming to an essentially unspoken agreement where one night a year they both get to live these alternate lives where she can have an affair and he can go into the VR game with Carl.
Yeah, my wife and I had that conversation. We were wondering, is she getting an affair or is she getting to just go out and flirt and get drinks bought for her and miss that thrill? Because he's not technically having sex with his physical self. So I don't know what the trade-off here is. I interpret it as they get...
So just like they both emotionally cheat on each other, kind of.
Yeah, exactly, kind of thing. But I actually wanted an ending. If you wanted to go happy... My happy ending would have been that him and his wife get involved in VR gaming, and that they, pursue different characters. Dude,
how sad would that make Carl now? The one thing they had, he does with his wife.
Yeah, I mean, he can have it so that one day a year. But come on, don't tell me he doesn't want to know what it feels like to be a woman. She doesn't want to know what it feels like. Come on, you could go a little crazy with your experimentations. But I definitely, I think I took it as. They get a night a year to just do whatever the fuck they want.
It's like The Purge, but for fidelity.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I liked the ending. To me, it just felt like, in a dark way, everybody was kind of happy. Like, they had another child successfully. Like, their marriage seemed fine. She got the family she wanted, and him and Carl at least were able to somewhat come to terms with this. I mean, I don't think they're ever going to fully grasp what was going on with them, but they were able to at least come a little bit more out in the open, because I'm sure Theo knew something about who they were. So it seemed like everybody kind of got what they wanted, even if it wasn't like a perfect union of those things.
Well, really quick question before we jump ahead that made me think of a question. Okay, you know that scene where they kiss in real life and it's hella awkward and it's raining, but they obviously don't even know how to kiss each other, and they're both like, "Nope, didn't feel anything." But you kind of feel like they both did. Like, I was sitting there going, "Did they actually not feel anything, or are they both not wanting to admit that they did?"
I think the latter. They both felt something, but didn't want to admit that they did. Is how I interpreted it.
And then because they immediately fought afterwards, and it made me feel like they both had a lot of emotion. Like,
oh yeah,
plus, like, dude, come on, it doesn't matter, hetero, hell, homo, who cares? But like, who kisses like that awkwardly? It doesn't matter if they're the love of your life. You're not gonna feel fireworks by awkwardly pecking someone on the lips, and then immediately running away. Like,
plus the whole thing was like, kiss me
no
now, and then like, do you feel anything? I was like, dude, that's really not the best way to gauge your
that just sounds like a middle school thing, saying, "Oh my gosh, there were fireworks when you kissed." That doesn't exist. Shut up.
I tried that line in middle school and it didn't work. Rebecca, call me back. All right, the second episode, and maybe the darkest, I don't know, depending how you interpret the ending, was Smithereens. And the plot synopsis for this is: a cab driver with an agenda becomes the center of attention on a day that rapidly spirals out of control. This stars Andrew Scott as Chris Gilhaney, Damson Idris as Jaden, Topher Grace as Billy Bauer, and among others, Monica Dolan as CS Linda Grace, who's kind of the head of the police force. So, Smithereens, you told me that this one was very, very interesting after you watched it. And I do think, oh man, this kind of had the Black Mirror ending feel of being dark, not as reliant on technology as a lot of other episodes, or at least didn't go where I thought it was going to with the use of either the social media network or that Hitcher app. But what did you think of Smithereens?
Yeah, again, there's a kind of theme for season 5 for me. Lacked in the typical Black Mirror feel, right? That doesn't take away anything from the entertainment of these episodes or how they were acted, because I will say this episode I thought had the best acting.
Agreed.
Andrew Scott was just fucking incredible as the desperate driver who's trying to get on the phone with Billy Bauer. I mean, his desperation, his acting, he sold it. He was incredible. I was saying that the entire time. But again, this was very on the surface. You don't usually get that with Black Mirror. This was straightforward on what they were trying to say. At the end of the day, it felt like a PSA for a don't text and drive ad, right? Like, this was a propaganda from the government. Like, show this to all the 15-year-olds in driver's ed, right? Like, that's what this kind of felt like. Again, that's saying it wasn't entertaining. It just... it's up there. It might have been tied for my favorite. I'm not sure yet. I have to think about it more, mainly because I did find the acting so well done. I thought Topher Grace was great in this episode. I actually really liked his character. But it also had some, like, weird plot points. Like, I love when he's driving, he's kidnapped the guy, and he's driving him in the backseat with a bag over his head. Of course, the cops are like,
what?
Someone drive with a bag. Like, why put the bag over his head? That would have been much less suspicious.
Yeah, and it's not like you didn't need the guy to know where they were going. Like, he just needed. They could have gone and just driven around all day.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, there was some stuff in there. I think my interpretation was that the whole day went wrong. It went against how he planned it to go. I don't think he meant for it to be his last day. I think that's up for debate. I think you might have a different opinion. But I do think it all spiraled out of control, which caused him to decide to end his life, which he might not have. Right. We didn't get that. But, I thought also, like, there was something deeper. He needed Billy Bauer so desperately. And it really was exactly why you thought he needed to talk to Billy Bauer. He wanted to just get his vent to the guy whose website he was obsessed with. So, I thought that was interesting that Billy Bauer is obviously this nerd character who's a billionaire, who's created something so much bigger than him that even the board, they weren't worried about Billy Bauer talking this guy down the ledge. They were worried about Billy Bauer screwing up their company.
Yeah.
Right? That they clearly show that he was not in control anymore. Even though he is the face of the company, it didn't matter. to the board. So I enjoyed some of the aspect of it. There was some, the depth of the characters was really well done, but again, under 500 if you're ranking the Black Mirror episodes to me.
Yeah. I pretty much agree with all that. It's tough with an anthology show like Black Mirror to build any depth with characters because you basically have 55 minutes to introduce them to us, make us care, and give us an arc with them, which is really, really hard to do. And to the acting point, real quick, this pod has shit on Topher Grace a lot because of his role as Eddie Brock in Spider-Man 3. But this to me is his agent did a great job because this is what he's good at. Like kind of the eccentric but also altruistic guy who's like really smart and can be a fast talker when he needs to. Like I just thought he was perfect as Billy Bauer. And I'm glad because I first thought I knew he was in this episode, but when he was really hard to reach in the beginning, I thought it was going to be one of those like you don't really see him, he's kind of like this shadowy figure or whatever. So I'm glad that basically the last third of the episode, it was like him and Andrew Gilhaney, or Chris Gilhaney, excuse me, on the phone. And then I think with this episode, I kind of want your opinion on this. I feel like there are two parts of technology that are like really utilized. So the first one is obviously the addiction to technology, right? So Chris calls him and basically says, yeah, I couldn't stay off my phone, and that's what caused this accident. And then the second part is, and it's a little more subtle, but the information that these social media companies have on us as people, because when they have Chris on the phone, the police, Smithereen figures out his whole life story way faster than the cops do.
I love that part. Yeah, I love that commentary.
So it's kind of like, it's sort of a twofold message with your PSA, right? It's like, we have an addiction to technology, and also look at what we're giving these people of ourselves. Like this guy, Chris Gilhaney, hadn't logged on to Smithereen in like a year, and they were able to piece together his whole life story and his motive in like 5 minutes on the phone, which is kind of harrowing.
Yeah, I think that was a major plot point, right? Like the cops were struggling to get any information. I love that as someone who, is on social media and also still hates it. It's the ironic thing is he's right. Like we can't get off it. I don't like the privacy issues. I don't like this or that, but shit, I'm still using it.
Yeah, exactly. The last thing we got to talk about is the ending, and it is kind of open to interpretation. Obviously, there is a gunshot that goes off, and then we see, like, as the credits are rolling, two cut-ins of like Smithereen users who I don't even think were really part of the episode. It was just to illustrate that they got some news notification about what happened. And then I think sort of the other part is just how calloused over we are when we receive horrible news like this. Because like they read their notification and they're back to their coffee, and presumably someone died. So what did you make of the ending, both in terms of what do you think happened when that gunshot went off, and then sort of that message of like, yeah, this shit doesn't even fucking bother us anymore.
Exactly. So right to your last point, how everyone just went back to their coffee. When there was that scene where they're recording inside his car and he makes a comment, he's obviously lying, but he says the gun is fake. Right. And then the police all find out about it. So they decide to pursue. And the kid, how there were the two teenage kids on the bike there. And they're like live tweeting the whole thing or live Smithereening.
Yeah, they're like almost glad that they were there when it happened.
Yeah, but then they were so upset, like when they found out the gun wasn't even real.
Yeah.
I
forgot about that. That was fucked up.
And that's the thing about like how quick we are to move on. I mean, we can talk about all the school shootings we have or people dying or these accidents, whatever. I mean, that's another commentary about this. We do move from story to story. You see all these people who get like attacked on social media one day and their lives are torn apart, and the next day everyone's moved on onto something else, and that person's probably like, what the fuck just happened? That tidal wave hit me, and then people don't even remember it a week later. So I thought it was interesting that they told this story about this guy who, at the end of the day, Billy Bauer was never going to think about again, society was never going to think about again, and is that the true tragedy of what's happening? But back to your original question about the ending. There was a comment earlier in the episode that the cops were hesitant to pull a trigger on the gun because they had a previous incident that caused problems. So that's what led me to believe when they shot that, and they were fighting in the car itself, that the gunshot went through. My interpretation, it went through both parties, killing both, and sadly, people in that situation would move on because they would. It's what they expect. Oh, both people died. Oh, okay. And no one knows the actual true story where the guy was actually trying to save his life by preventing him to kill himself.
Yeah,
everyone doesn't care.
It's a headline on the news now to them.
Yep. You know? It's not a human story. It's not on the news, on Twitter, or anything like that. So what about you? What did you think?
Yeah, I'm not sure who died in the car, but I think the cool thing, not the cool thing, that's a weird fucking way to put it, but the depth of this story is that it doesn't really matter because the point of it is something bad obviously happened. It's sort of insinuated, and the casual person, like you said, they see their notification. It should be a horrible thing that upsets us, but in an hour and a half, they'll be on to the next thing. And those kids' disappointment, I can't believe I didn't even make a bigger note of that, but they're almost mad because now when they recount the story to their friends, they'll be like, yeah, but wasn't the fucking gun fake? And they'll be like, damn it, this is not as cool of an event to have been a part of, which is a horrible way to look at it, but sadly probably rooted in reality quite a bit.
Yeah, completely agree.
All right, the last episode, this was a short one, but I guess Bandersnatch was supposed to kind of count for season 5, is what I was reading. So
I think it took a lot of the budget.
Right. The third and final episode was called Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2, and the plot synopsis is: a lonely teenager yearns to connect with her favorite pop star, whose charmed existence isn't quite as rosy as it appears. This one had Miley Cyrus as Ashley O, Anjuri Rice as Rachel, Madison Davenport as Jack, and then Susan Porfar was Ashley O's aunt, Catherine. So this episode to me felt like Miley Cyrus approached Black Mirror and said, hey, it would be really cathartic to me if I could do like a dark version of my Hannah Montana character and sort of shine a light on like some of the pitfalls and the tribulations that like celebrity entails, specifically in the music industry. And I thought this was interesting, but to me, this didn't feel like a Black Mirror episode. This could have been just like an NCIS episode or Law and Order. What did you think of Jack?
Completely agree. And again, like I said at the very beginning, I have a really high bar for Black Mirror. It's some of the, when I think of like White Christmas, Shut Up and Dance, White Bear, I mean, they're not just phenomenal episodes on their own. They do stuff that you've never seen on TV, right? Like they just do stuff that makes you think, and it's so deep, and that's what Black Mirror is supposed to be about. And I get they're not going to hit a home run every time, but this one was, again, like you said, it was entertaining. I didn't have a problem watching it. It finished, and I just said that might be my least favorite Black Mirror episode ever. Now, does this mean I hated this episode? No. Does it mean I thought it was just awful? No, definitely not. But I agree. It played out like a Disney Channel original movie on MTV, right? Like it just slightly more risque. It's PG-13 this time, or Miley Cyrus said fuck, so we get an R rating. It played
fuck
out like
you, Catherine. I want that as my ringtone.
I love that. Yeah, like it just felt like, maybe that was the point. It felt like a Disney Channel original movie so much that could have been what they were trying to do, right? Like that was why. Like the dad driving the mouse car. So
oh my god,
of a single dad embarrassing the children, right? Like that, having that job that doesn't no one else, but he's so passionate about.
And his daughter's at the talent show, and he fucking leaves to talk to the janitor about their mouse traps.
I love the janitor's like, dude, I'm the janitor. I don't make these decisions.
Yeah, like I've been working here 2 weeks.
Like that kind of stuff was very, again, that could have been the point. I did think again that they were going to go. Maybe that's a twist. I did think they were going to go darker with the Ashley Infinity or Eternal. That's what hurt, and even though Ashley O finally escapes her aunt and this contract that she can be who she really is, I would thought it would be interesting if they had her just fail as that kind of person, but yet Ashley Eternal is still successful. And it's just that's the torture, but they didn't end up doing that. They did a pretty happy ending. And I will say, I will comment on the acting. Miley Cyrus was fine. I've never hated Miley Cyrus by any means. I actually really commend the 2 teenage daughters. The atmosphere between them was so much like a sibling. That was great. So I really liked their chemistry together. But again, as an episode, I'll leave it.
I at first thought that there was going to be, because again, Black Mirror kind of like lays a lot of breadcrumbs in the beginning, and it's really interesting where they go. I didn't know if we were going to go with Anjali Rice's character Rachel, if she was going to become like some oddly obsessed fan. Because even at the end, when they go to Ashley O's house and she's like in a coma, she's like, "I am such a big fan." Like she's
oh my
like,
gosh, she said that. What? How many times did she say that?
"Oh Jesus!" I'm like, "She's in a coma, dude. Can you just chill out?" So I
She
didn't
is a
know.
15-year-old, yeah.
I don't know if they were going to go like some dark obsessive storyline there. And again, I'm not mad they didn't. I think I just kept waiting for this to feel like a Black Mirror episode, and it felt dark and it was kind of interesting, but it just didn't feel like this show really.
And the only thing they, that what makes it Black Mirror, right? It's the technology. So
Yeah.
they have a doll that has her personality. We've already kind of seen episodes with that technology used. Again, if White Christmas, they have the like what we would call like the Amazon, the smart devices in your house where they would implant part of themselves into the device. So we already kind of had this concept. So it wasn't so abstract. I guess maybe actually Eternal thing was technology based. But we already kind of have holograms anyway. So the
Right. That to
wasn't
me
even
didn't
there.
feel groundbreaking because like I've seen Tupac Shakur in a concert performance.
Yeah. So the doll, was it funny? Sure. Like, okay. A doll said fuck and was talking shit. Like, but again, I didn't buy it. I didn't. You could have put this as anything else, like you said, NCIS or Law and Order, and it would have been fine. But don't call this Black Mirror.
Yeah. So last thing before we let the people go, rank these episodes 1, 2, or 3 based on how they played out for you. So we have Striking Vipers is episode 1, Smithereens episode 2, and then Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2.
So I will say this first: all 3 episodes rank in my bottom half of Black Mirror. Again, that is not an insult to the season.
No, that's a tough list to
compliment. It's a compliment to the previous seasons. I think going backwards, I think Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2 is probably my least favorite episode. It's up there with maybe Waldo and what was that other one from last season? The one with the robot. Robot dog, doesn't matter. Yeah, it was definitely
Metalhead?
At the bottom of my list. Yes, yeah, Metalhead. Yeah, so it was at the bottom of my list. I don't think there's anything really redeeming in it in the Black Mirror sense. I highly doubt I rewatch this one ever. Then going up, it's a tough one between the two. Both probably are touching the 2/3 mid to low 2/3 of my overall ranking. Right now I have probably the second episode, Smithereens, slightly over Striking Vipers, only because I felt like I did like the drama, the desperation in it, the fact that it was the darkest episode. But it's slightly, they might be tied. I did really enjoy Striking Vipers as well. But they might essentially be the same to me because they didn't give me what I expected out of Black Mirror. What's your rankings?
Yeah, so, and we can take this off pod if we can't remember, but I said Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2 was probably my least favorite Black Mirror episode to you earlier. But there was one other episode, I can't even remember what it is now, but I said that was probably my least favorite.
I think it was the one with Waldo. The Waldo.
With the animated dog, right?
The dog, the one where that runs for office.
Yeah, okay. So I liked the Ashley O episode better than that. But for this season, I would say my favorite was Striking Vipers, then in the order they were released, then Smithereens, then Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2. And the Striking Vipers one, for some reason, is really growing on me. Like, I might want to go back and rewatch it. It's probably not.
You want to have that kind of friendship with me.
Just join and play me. It could only be at like 1 a.m. too. I think the most unrealistic part of that episode is he's playing Tetris when he's bored. Like no one will be playing that.
I did feel really pissed. I forgot to say this. I did feel bad for the video game makers of that game because that looked like an awesome video game, but no one was actually playing Striking Vipers. They were all boning in that world.
Exactly. And if they weren't at first, once word got out that you could fuck in the game, that's all anyone was doing.
Greatest selling game of all time.
All right, we were in a little longer than we planned to, but that's what Black Mirror does. It brings it out in us. So for our legal counsel, Ronnie Cycli, I'm the mayor, Jeff Hornacek, and we've been the Bro 4 Squad podcast. Thank you guys for checking us out. Comment below what you think about season 5 of Black Mirror. Check out everything else we do on our website, bro4squad.com. Follow us on Twitter at Bro4Squad. Check out all of our movie reviews on letterboxd.com. Just type in Bro Force Squad, 3 words, and those same 3 words on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. You can find us and subscribe to us there. Till next time, we will see you in the Striking Vipers chat. I didn't have a chat.